So welcome back, everybody. We're going to have a little fun today in this episode testing out a new piece of equipment here. And by the way, I'm not getting paid to make this video. This is not my splitter and I don't earn any money should you buy one of these. I'm strictly doing this to help out a small American-made business, Mr. Larry at American CLS, who makes these up in New York State. So we have one of his big splitters, the Animal. That's my personal splitter and I love it. And when he found out that I had a social media channel, he said, would you be willing to demo one of my tractor splitters? I said, sure. We've had a lot of viewers ask about models like this over the years, why I didn't have one with all the tractors and stuff that we have. And personally, I've just never ran one. I see some benefits to them and I see some negatives from my own personal views and opinions. So let's test one of these things out. I just got done doing a full assembly on this particular unit. It's exactly how it would ship to you, the viewer. And well, you can build these out with all kinds of accessories. So you can start with just a single valve and a single beam with, well, let's take a peek at the single wedge that comes on these. So you can get in one of these tractor splitters for very affordable prices when you really look at it that way. Now you can add and build this out for your needs. It's probably the most modular splitter that they offer now that I really think about it. If you want to get in an American built machine with good quality hydraulics, good steel, you can just have the single beam, the single wedge, single valve, and go to splitting, assuming your tractor has rear hydraulic hookups and they have to be at a certain flow rate. They recommend at least a minimum of 11 gallons a minute to run one of these machines. Now, I know a lot of our viewers are just like me. You're going to have compact tractors. I have a 66 horse one, and I have a small 24 horsepower tractor right here, and believe it or not, neither of them, including my 66 horse, can quite meet the minimum flow rate for a log splitter and cylinder like this. So if your tractor does not have high enough flow rate to the rear ports, well, you can add what's called a PTO hydraulic pump. I happen to have an 11 gallon a minute pump right here on this, which is what's recommended on tractors 28 horsepower and under. This particular tractor right here is 24 horsepower, so we went with their smaller pump. They also offer, I believe it's either a 20 or 21 gallon a minute pump that we are going to install later on in a few months to say run on my larger tractor. So what I meant by all this being so modular is, well, you can add all the accessories you want, different size pumps, anything you can think of. And I want to run this setup for a couple of months right here with the 24 horse tractor, because the 24 and 25 horse series tractors from all different brands are so popular. And I want to make quite a few videos showing that you can run a nice log splitter setup like this on even the smallest of tractors. So if you want to continue to build your machine out, this is what I like about American CLS. You're calling, you're talking directly to the owner. They're a small business. It's all American made with quality components. And then you can tell him what all you want to add on. So you can start with just the beam and the simple setup to get a quality machine to save money, and then you can start moving into add-ons like the pans on the end, which I highly recommend and love. Keeps your wood from falling on the ground when you split it. You also got another little catch over here to keep logs from rolling off the log lift and hitting you. You can add a log lift like I've added on this right here. All this stuff I bolted on and assembled all this myself, the same way it would ship to you on a pallet. You got your big hydraulic reservoir up here that holds 8 gallons of fluid, more than enough to run the 2 cylinders on the particular machine that I have right here. And if you go to the log lift, well, you'll wind up with a second Prince valve, control valve right over here to operate that. Some of the other add-ons they have are fat wedges, 4-way wedges, and I believe you can even run up to a 6-way on this, although you're probably going to want the larger hydraulic pump to really push through that kind of stuff. If you're interested in one of these setups, I'll put a website down in the description. Get a hold of Mr. Larry. He can give you a quote on all the different add-ons that you can do here, from the basic unit to every single add-on that I'm showing here and some additional ones. They also offer a vertical mount splitter too, if you prefer to split, you know, sitting down or busting up large rounds. Obviously, it's not going to have the log lift and the pans and other stuff, but a lot of people want a vertical mount because it's nice and compact, and they just prefer to split sitting down. You can see I've got this resting on some logs. I may build a stand for this later, but the other thing I really like about a tractor splitter is, well, I can adjust the height, the working height right here, just by raising and lowering the 3-point arms. I like the idea of sitting on some firewood rounds out here. I may cut me one to the size that I really like, the working height, just to take all the extra stresses off the tractor. Even as small as this tractor is, it handles this absolutely no problems at all. So some benefits I can see to a tractor mounted splitter like this. One, I can drive right out in the woods, right down the trail with a tractor and split in the woods. Some of y'all prefer doing that. Whereas trailering my big splitter out there would be a nightmare, especially on uneven ground and roots. You'd run some risk of tipping certain models over. So I can see a big benefit to this. A lot of other people want to justify the expense of a tractor. Hey, if I'm going to pay that kind of money, I want that tractor to do everything it can do. I totally understand that argument there. But then there's some people that say, hey, I don't want to put the hours on my tractor. I want one of these models with a gas engine on it. I see both sides of the story there. Other people just don't want to maintain a gas engine. You're already taking care of the tractor. You just would rather have one engine running all the implements that you can hook up to it. Again, I see both sides of the fence there. I'm just showing some cool equipment on the channel. So let's fire the tractor up. I'm going to show you the cycle times and all of this. We're going to run at low RPM, which would have you the ultimate fuel savings, but it's going to run the pump the slowest. The cycle time's a little too slow for me personally. We'll move up to a mid RPM. I'll show you that. That's where you're still nice and fuel efficient on your tractor. You're not very loud, and the splitter cycle time does speed up. And then we'll show full working RPMs, which is going to get the pump to maximum speed, and it does speed up the cycle time quite a bit. Don't forget, we're going to go to a much higher gallon per minute pump in the future. I think this thing is going to be phenomenal once we move up to that pump. But if you got a small tractor, let's show you how it'll work as is. All right, so here's the tractor at the lowest RPMs possible. So we're going to have the slowest flow rate. See, this is about max lift on the log lift itself. I'm perfectly fine with that speed. We're going to see it being nice and slow is on this large cylinder. We got a lot of fluid to put in there, and the pump is not ramped up. So if we go forward, well, yeah, that's slow. It's probably going to be a bit slow for most people, but if you're wanting ultimate fuel savings on your tractor, we're running at minimum RPM. So return is a little faster. Let's go ahead and rev this up to about 17 to 1800 RPMs, which is still fuel efficient, still relatively quiet, and it will speed this up. All right, hopefully you can still hear me. Now we're at 1800 RPMs. Log lifts a little quicker. And let's check this out. We're definitely moving a little faster now. This is about the speed that I used to see out of my Tractor Supply log splitter, for example. And you're going to notice the return, well, it's a little faster than the forward motion. By the way, this has automatic detent, so automatic return, and will kick out. So now we're getting maximum production out of the smaller 11 gallon minute pump, but we're using more fuel on the tractor. So log lift, too fast really, but you can also feather the controls and make it nice and slow. Now let's look at the forward motion. All right, now we're getting somewhere. It's actually faster than I was expecting for an 11 gallon a minute pump. That's faster for sure than the big box store splitter that I used to have. And the return, that's pretty decent speed right there on such a small pump. We'll start out with the single way wedge right here, then we'll put on what's called the fat wedge, which looks like it'll pop wood apart better. And we'll try the 4-way and see if the 11 gallon minute pump can actually run a 4-way wedge okay. This is all oak, by the way. As you can see, zero issues with the single way, as expected. I really like having the pans on a machine. It's so nice to not have the wood just split and fall off on the ground. See here, looks like we got a tall enough wedge that we can split double stack pieces. Yep. Now down here in Florida, we burn outside in fire pits. I like our wood nice and small. Just a little bit larger wedge on there. Assuming it's just going to pop the wood apart even better. All right, now let's try the 4-way and see if the smaller pump's able to run through this. Problem at all. Now the height of this wedge is not adjustable. The looks like there's just enough room left underneath the wings. We can do some re-splits. Yep. All right, well, I can honestly say I am impressed. I really thought this was going to be slower than it was with the smaller pump on there, but I am highly impressed. Mr. Larry, the owner of American CLS, told me that he kind of foresees a model like this for the homeowner that splits a few cords of wood a year and kind of sees it in that production range. But I can absolutely see you splitting way more than just a few cords a year with a machine like this, especially when you add on the lift, the four-way, the pans, all that stuff makes you so much more productive. I cannot wait to see how fast this is going to be whenever we upgrade to the 21-gallon-a-minute pump. So overall, I like it. I really do. It just depends on, do you want to put hours on your tractor or do you want a gas-powered model? That's ultimately up to you. I'm just here testing and having fun with this stuff. The only thing I could say I didn't like was the size of the gap right here. Occasionally I'd have some wood fall through in between and kind of hit the ground. And I realized at first I had the log splitter up, so everything was hitting the pans and sliding back. That's my fault. So I made some adjustments, adjusted the top link and kind of dropped it this way, and then only occasionally had one or two pieces fall off. But I would like to see the gap between the pan and the lift a little tighter, so whenever you split and stuff wants to kind of roll back, well, it can't go straight to the ground. My American CLS Animal, my bigger log splitter, has a pretty tight gap right there, and I never have that issue. I also realized what's going on with that other wedge. So if we take this off and we run the push plate all the way up to here, there is a gap left. That's understandable. So there is a gap to put on slide-on wedges. So I think what I'm going to start referring to this wedge as a take-up wedge. So once you put it in, well, that gap is no longer there. It comes very close to the push plate, but doesn't make contact with it. Where that's going to be very important is if you're splitting a lot of stringy wood. Some of this oak gets like that, and you need to push all the way to the end for all the fibers to release. Otherwise, you're sitting there just fighting pieces. I dealt with that some today, especially when I was on the single wedge. But that's just because of the type of material I was splitting. This wedge right here closes that gap up, and by the time you push all the way up to it, well, the wood has to come apart. All right, y'all, again, this was not a sponsored video. Not getting paid to do this. Don't get paid if you go buy one. I just believe in supporting an American company. I really love my other splitter. It is just a high production machine, and we're going to continue to test this out for a while. All right, we'll catch you on the next video. A lot more firewood content coming as we continue to build out the woodshed here. We got a lot of future equipment and upgrades going to go on in here.